Okay, we're with Caroline Skanne, and she is the editor of Hedgerow. She's also an excellent poet herself. And what I want to find out from her more than anything else, we know that she doesn't live where she was born. So I'd like you to tell us a little bit about your personal background and where you are and how you got to where you are now, and what's your life like.
Okay, so I live in a small village. It's called Upnor. It's by the River Medway in Kent. So Kent is a county outside London. Is a driving distance there. We have a small cottage, a very old cottage, and a chaotic cottage garden where we grow everything. We love growing things. I live here with my partner, 2 children, 2 dogs, 2 cats, house spiders, and we love animals, basically. So originally, I am from Sweden, hence my accent. I was born in Stockholm, the capital. I moved down south to a place called Lund when I was around 6, which is my mum's, where she was born or around about. So I grew up in the south of Sweden, and at 19, which was, I think, 98, I decided to come to London to learn English, to study. So I did, and that was before Brexit, so you could do that. Yeah, and I stayed on studying, having odd jobs, living in East London, a place called Hackney mainly. We lived all around there. And so let's see what I did. Yeah, so I studied mainly during those years. I did a master's in anthropology and cultural politics. Yeah, quite interesting. I'm not really sure how I ended up there, but I think I love books and I love libraries. So I think that's how I stayed studying for so long. So I guess the one constant during this time, moving around and so forth, was writing, because I always wanted to write and I've always been writing. But I thought I'd be a novelist. But when I put pen to paper, poems come out, which is okay. It's okay. But I feel perfectly happy to express myself or to live life through short poems. It's a beautiful way of doing it. And as time passed, the poems were getting shorter. And I don't know why, but I think there was a time when I had my children, and you know how that is. You have very little time to yourself. So it had to be snappy. It wasn't just that, but that was part of it. But what I would say in all this, I think writing was therapy for me. It was also indulgence, obviously, me time, and a way to express myself. But it was when we moved out here to Upnor, the countryside, where I feel my haiku really kicked off. Being close to nature, breathing space, a quieter life. It was that's around the time when a lot of things kind of happened, or I think I felt the peace of mind to do things. So that would have been around 8 years ago. Actually, so my poetry is very much inspired by the river, the surrounding woodland, and the hedgerows, and that obviously inspired me to set up Hedgerow, the journal, some 7 years ago. And I think that is, in a roundabout way, me in a summed up version.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I worked for a company in London, so
yeah,
for many years.
Oh yes, of course you did. Yeah.
I enjoy. So I enjoyed it there. I spent a lot of time in Camden Yards and
yeah.
The old
really?
The old hippie roots.
Oh yes, of course.
And the British Library.
Yes. Oh, it's beautiful.
It is astounding. So I know exactly. London's one of those very big cities in the world that I actually feel comfortable in. I love the tube. But you're right. Getting out in the country is also a beautiful thing. So I have the same experience, and I'll just share with you. Your experience is mine. I started writing poetry. I wanted to write a novel. That never happened.
Never happened.
Then I was writing poetry, and then I was writing shorter poetry, and the poetry kept getting shorter. Finally, I learned about haiku and found out about it, and that's pretty much what I do for the last 25 years, 30 years. So,
how does that happen? It takes over your life in a good way. In a good way.
I think it is because, and you tell me, it's the memories that we have in our life are really little fragments. You know, you look at something, you look at someone, you see your child or your cat or whatever. Those are the things that actually, they're your day. Is that how you feel?
Yes, that's it. It's life, and haiku is a part of life. So it's enough. It's being in the moment, and that's enough. I completely. That's what's the I guess the obsession with it. So absolutely.
Obsession is a good word because it does tend to take over your creative life. And I always tell people it's like a journal. If I look at my poems, I immediately can go back to whole times. Some little phrase that to you is nice and you think it's cool. I can do 5,000 words on to tell you what happened to get me to that. So that's cool.
That's right. Exactly. That's it. You're distilling life into its, not its purest form, but, you know, into clarity in a way. I do. It's beautiful.
Well, and, you know, where can people find you on the internet? You obviously, there's Hedgerow. You talk about that. But where can people find your work on the internet? Because that's one of the key places people go to hunt. To appreciate somebody's work. So where can they find yours?
Yes. Well, I have a blog, and it's just carolineskanne.com, simple. I don't update it as much as I should, but there is a lot of work on there. If you kind of look around, a bit of everything. Oh, actually, no, it's not a bit of everything. It's haiku mainly, but it's a bit of everything. A bit of everything. Yes. And I also, I'm on Twitter, and I do post there sometimes. Sorry, that was a cat coming into the picture. And Instagram. Yes, I'm on Instagram. I like Instagram. It's picture-based. Again, I don't post as much as I should, but I think it's quite nice there. It works quite well for short poetry. But there's a problem. There isn't a lot of haiku if you search on the hashtag haiku. It's a lot of poems. Yeah. So that's a bit frustrating. But at the same time, it's funny. It's good that people are enjoying short poetry. So yeah, I enjoy that. I actually started, you say you're an internet guy. I actually started my poetry journey, not writing, but publishing on social media. I had a blog, and then I went from there to Twitter. My poems are getting shorter. And I'm also on Facebook. I usually share on Facebook, but I find Facebook, it's really, really good, but it's very, very overwhelming because there's so much happening there all the time, and it's very personal in a way. So I use that for Hedgerow, for sharing, but I use Instagram and Twitter and my blog maybe more for poetry, for my own poetry, I think.
That's a good strategy. I find I have the same issue with Facebook, and I just there's so much stuff there that I created my own handle, Haiku Mike, a separate, just for poetry. Just if you want to post anything else, thank you very much, but don't friend me there. I just want to see short poems. So, and people can. By the way, we're going to put links underneath here with everything and all the links that where people can find your work. But the fact that you are on the internet is such a it's an easy way for people all over the world to find you.
Yes, absolutely.
I think
I
that
agree. It's done a lot for short poetry, the accessibility, for sure. So it's a good thing. And there are a lot of very good online journals as well, of course. So, and Facebook is good. You had, is this the virtual haiku? I remember it was massive on Facebook in the beginning. It
that's
really did so much.
virtual haiku. Yeah.
Yes. It did so much for so many writers, you know. It's yeah, it's rather good. You have to use, but it's easy to get social media burnout, I think. So you have to watch out.
It's really important to meter it your time, because if you don't, you'll be talking to people of everything from politics to recipes, and it won't help your poetry at all.
No. I know exactly what you mean, and I do like people share some personal things, of course, photos and stuff. But mainly, I want short poems. That's what I want to see on my timeline. You know, short poems. Very one-dimensional.
Well, and it's a good place, I think, where you started Hedgerow. So we can talk about that a little bit. That began as an online PDF, very much like Failed Haiku and Prune Juice and others, and became very successful very fast. Julie Werther is the one who hit me to you on. She emailed me or something and said, "You got to look at this."
Oh, okay.
So how did you come up with Hedgerow? What was the motivation behind it, and how did you name it?
Okay. Yes, well, hedgerow is the hedgerows around here are characteristic for the landscape. It's a living border. I know that it doesn't make complete sense for anyone outside this country. So it's a living border. So it's kind of like between a field and woodland, for instance. So it will be a place of, you know, foraging and nesting opportunity, and a place with a lot of wildlife, basically, and versatile wildlife as well. So my idea behind it was to create a platform for short poets to be a little bit freer, to be able to send me different kinds of work, not just haiku, senri, but maybe tanka, maybe charita, maybe hybrid, maybe even a prose poem, maybe haiga. So I wanted to be that platform where, you know, it was a bit, you could be a bit freer. And in the beginning, I posted, or I published weekly. I can't believe it now, but I did it weekly. Every Friday I did it. And I loved it for a long time. But it became a chore after a while, because after years. And I think I first started maybe doing it every second week for a while. And people started saying, why don't you make it a print journal? So I started doing that as well. And then they became very popular. And because I'm a book person, I like to hold, you know, paper in my hands. I started doing print. I shifted Hedgerow to become a print journal. And I kept the spin-off journals, Vines, for collaborative poetry, linked verse, and sequences. I kept that online. Actually, I might have started that later. And also the under 16s Young Voices, which is a place for children and teenagers to share haiku-related work. So that's how it happened. And I think over the years, because I think I'm in the 7th or 8th year now, and yeah, I know. I think the focus has shifted more towards haiku, because I am it's showing my own, it's reflecting my own interest, I think, there. But I'm still always trying to include different forms and different, you know, I want people to experiment a little bit. I want people to be reading different things in one journal, if that makes sense, which is quite difficult to get that right.
Yeah, that you're right down my alley. It's why I love it. There's everybody has to find the best way to express themselves, and you know, if you're highly limited and focused, that's fine if that's what you want to do.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's hard to grow a journal, and you've grown it. I mean,
yes,
tens of thousands of people have seen Hedgerow, and it's that's the whole deal in the end. If you can't reach anybody but your own little group,
mm-hmm.
You're not really growing Haikai. You're talking to each other all the time. Mm-hmm. Nothing wrong with that, by the way. I'm not trying to say it's a bad thing. It's just, but if you want to really proselytize and expose people to it, and you have done a wonderful job. I mean, it's always an honor to be in your journal. It's always an honor to be accepted. And I know a lot of poets feel that way. So you've been around a long time, long enough so that you have proven the worth of the concept. So very good. Very good.
Yeah.
But
thank you.
I'm curious how we talked about it a little bit, but I'd like to delve into it. How did you fall into haiku? I mean, was there a book? Who inspired you? Was there something somewhere that caught your attention, that got you moving down this path? And you've been doing it now for a long time. So something must have really set you off. What was it? I'm curious.
Yes. Yes. I actually ask this question to when I meet someone, a writer, the first time. And then when they turn to me and say, and what about you? I never had that moment where the book hit me in the head, I never did. So I've been tracing it back, and I think I could give you maybe 10 different ones, but I've chosen one for you that I think is the moment when that seed was kind of buried somewhere in my poetic psyche. And when I studied to do my master's, I was working part-time in a bookshop. And during my lunch breaks, I used to go up, and I can't remember the name of this shop, but it was an independent shop, one of the big ones on Charing Cross, where all the bookstores are, the best place in London. And I used to go up where they had all the independent, the poetry journals, because most bookshops don't stock all of them. So I would browse there, standing reading them all on my lunch break. And then I would buy one or two, whatever my budget allowed. And one of these was Magma. And it was in 2006, because I checked, because I still have that. And it was a feature showcasing Machi Tavares' work, the Salad Anniversary, the best-selling Tanka collection.
Yes.
And I remember reading that and thinking, wow, can you write like this? Is this okay? And my mind was blown. But at that time, it was, the simplicity, the directness, the images, the freshness. It felt a bit like coming home, like, wow. But I never thought, oh, what is this form? I should write it. No. I just left it like that. But I think that's when the image-based poem started to seep into my own work. And my poetry was changing from being more abstract and maybe inspirational, and including more concrete images. And I think I was also becoming more grounded maybe in myself. But I think that's the moment, really. That's what I think, but it might not be. Who knows?
It's the smallest thing sometimes that everybody I've asked that question, it usually does fall down to some simple moment where you go, oh, this is what it is. It dawns on you. Now, you may not get good at it instantly, although I've met a few people who did.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Always envious of them. Brent Goodman, he picked it up like that, and I go, wait a minute, that's not fair. But your story makes sense. It's always something, and the bookstores, great inspiration, because back in the day, Bill Higginson and Penny Harder's book was in every bookstore. That is cool. But what sustains it? for you. What did you kept the engine going? What?
Yeah. Well, what sustained me? Why do I return to haiku? It's a very good question because, like you said, it does become almost like an obsession. It's something that becomes more than just writing. It becomes a part of when someone says, "Oh, is it your hobby going hiking?" And you say, "No, it's called haiku, and it's not a hobby. It's more than that." No, I hope that person didn't. I won't watch this. She laughed. I do think. Let's see. So I think there's always more doors to open, metaphorically speaking, in haiku. I think we always, almost like children, we always come new to the moment. There's always more to learn, more to discover, and sometimes it's about rediscovering, or it might be unlearning. And there's some people say, "Don't you get tired of it?" And I think no, it's not something you can get tired of because it's life, and life can be haiku. So it kind of fits so well together. And I think what haiku does so well, it takes the inner world and links it with the outer world, and that is kind of it's making connections. And then you leave that. If you're reading haiku, for instance, you step into a poem and you make your own connections. And if you're writing haiku, someone else steps into your poem and find the connections. It's incredible, It's there's nothing quite like it. That's how I would put it. So,
I get a kick out of the fact that people find things in my poem that I didn't know I said.
Can you see me? Because I think I just kind of disappeared here.
You're fine.
No. I can't see myself.
You can't see yourself? Don't worry, you're coming through great.
No. What do I do? Just give me a moment here. Don't keep me on screen right now. Let's see if I can go back or...
Putting me on the screen doesn't help.
No, goodness me, what's going on?
Don't worry about the technology. You're coming through just great. You're coming through just great. And I think that people, but what you're saying here about haiku is important because other people see my poems and they'll say, "Oh," you'll go through there are haiku groups that I belong to and stuff, and you go through a critique, and somebody else says, "I see what you're trying to say here. You're trying to mention to relate to this thing or that thing," but not in my mind at all. Or was it? Just sometimes, when they tell me what they found in my poem, I find it too, and I think, you know what? I'll bet you that's one of the. I thought I was going one way, I went another, and I think that's the key. And you just left me. Yeah, oh my God. All right, we're back from our technical glitch, and that happens. Welcome to Zoom. You can go in and out, but we're talking about the kind of things that sustain you and keep you going in haiku. And who are the people you look to? Who are your mentors? Who are the people that you've read their work and it's had an impact on you? Because I'm curious about that too.
So yeah, I've been thinking about that. I do read widely and deeply, and so a lot of people came to haiku through the handbooks, and I didn't. I came to through reading people's work and translations, and so I have been inspired by many, and also, also through conversations with haiku poets, and they might not even be about haiku sometimes, you still people inspire you. But the one book I wanted to mention is Far Beyond the Field. I have it here. It's just down there. And it's a book, I think that is one of the books I always return to. It's fantastic. It's a book of translations of women Japanese haiku poets in chronological order. So you follow the development as well. And there are some incredible poems in here, and I don't know Japanese, so I am I am putting my trust in the translations. But because we are dealing with image-based poems, there's a way in for us to explore. So even if we miss a few of the allusions or cultural context, specific things, we can step in there and use our own imagination and put our own things around us into it and finish that poem. And the aesthetics here and it's beautiful. So that's the one I return to, and I always recommend it. So it has inspired me deeply, and it keeps inspiring me, actually.
Makoto Yaeda is a great translator too. You can trust him.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I would also say, as you probably know, when you're an editor, you get to meet a lot of writers, and some of them become your friends. Yes. And you have exchanges. It could be through emails, it can be on the phone, you might meet live. And it's these discussions and conversations around haiku that really, really inspires me. And for instance, if I'm going to give a few names, early days of Hedgerow, it was Anita Virgil. And I want to mention her because she passed away recently. And it touched me. We were only friends, virtually, but we had a lot of exchanges, and she inspired me. She was a great poet. And we would discuss anything but poetry, to be honest. And she taught me a lot about life, but also about haiku. And if you read her books, she would send me all her books. And there is a lot to learn there and be inspired by. I'm dedicating actually the next issue of Hedgerow to Anita, to her memory. She was a force. That's how I would put it. You knew her as well, didn't you?
Oh yes.
She had very strong ideas about scenery.
Yeah, and that's fine. We, you know what? It's important that everybody develop their own. Just my own thing. You can jump in and beat me up if you think I'm wrong. But I think everybody. One of the things about haiku and center is that you can make it your own. You can have your own way of doing it. Marlene Mountain did. Anita Virgil did. Roberta Beery does. Michelle Root Bernstein does. And none of them abandon the form and start the Virgil school of poetry.
No.
But somehow their work gets a stamp that's all their own. Peggy Lyles is another one.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So, that's why I wanted to mention her in particular, because she passed away. And so through Hedgerow, there are so many names. I don't know where to start, and I don't really want to miss anyone out. So I will be a bit cautious. Is that okay?
Yes.
I don't want to be beaten up either later on.
I am too. I mean, I've had the same experience that you've had. I have hundreds and hundreds of friends, and by the way, they think they can call me anytime, and I get phone calls and Zoom calls. And it's fun, and a lot of it, you're right, has nothing to do with haiku, particularly because haiku is your daily life.
That's right. That's it. So then also I would mention, because I also edit Blithe Spirit, which is the journal of the British Haiku Society. And I've been doing that for a few years now. And then you get to meet a lot of writers, haiku writers as well. So I made some very good friends. And it was Eliana Stoyanova who got me involved in BHS, which I'm very grateful for. And she's a good friend now. And many, many people. I don't really want to mention any more names because I feel, there are too many to mention really, as far as inspirations go. But I get inspired all the time. It happens. I find new haiku poets all the time that blow me away.
That's the other fun thing people forget about editors. I've said it plenty of times. I get to see somebody who's starting out, and the first time I see their work, and I say, "Wait a minute, where have they been?" Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Love it.
I'm trying to fiddle with something again.
Oh,
Sorry.
be careful.
Yeah, I'm being careful. I think.
I'm kidding you.
No, you're right. But this is it's very to be in that role where you can. For instance, that's one of the things with Hedgerow that I am very proud of actually. That I have published many poets for the very first time, and it might not be the first time they have been published, but it might be the first Haiga or the first linked verse or the first tanka.
Yes.
So to be able to do that, to provide that, it helps us all grow, and that was always the vision of Hedgerow, to grow together like that, to learn from each other. So yeah.
Can you tell me about your work with younger poets, children? Well,
Yeah.
explain that to me and let people know what you're doing there, because that's a critical area.
Well, I'm not doing much. I set up a space because I wanted young people to get involved, and I wanted it to be a place where they could send their poems. But the thing is, not many young people, they don't get to that point of wanting to publish their poems, and that's nothing. There's nothing wrong about that. But also in the schools here, at least, the curriculum teaches 575 still, and we have, for instance, as part of the BHS, we have teaching material, but the teachers, they don't seem to use it. So it seems to be more like a counting exercise than actually learning about haiku. So it's there when people need it, but I very rarely receive submissions. And I've been teaching now and again, but it's more an occasional thing. But it's there. That's all I can say. So unfortunately, I can't say much on that.
Well, I know, but you're doing something on it and with it, and that's the critical thing. And I know that Haiku Society of America has the same problem that the British Haiku Society has. It's same issue, is that you're fighting this old thing that it's a form and not a genre. That and I like to teach people, it's Haikai is what we're doing.
Yeah.
And
that's right.
And within that, we have all these different things that you've referred to, Haiga and Haiben, and it's all Kaioka and Tanka. And I think people need to see that it's a bigger thing than just this little 575 thing that they teach second graders. And what do you participate in? What parts of Haikai do you check the box in personally? What do you like?
So, well, basically, I tend to rely on flow when I write. So whatever comes out, and I enjoy the process of finding out. And then from there, you see fairly quickly what you're doing, obviously. And it could be a tanka, it could be a charita even, but most of the time it's a haiku for me, and it's usually a minimalist, nature-based haiku with multiple layers. That is my staple, but I do write outside my comfort zone because it's so important for a writer to grow, to kind of go outside that comfort zone as well. So what I would say is, it's interesting because I told you that I think it was a tanka book that really put down a seed in my poetic psyche, so to speak. And my first publication in short poetry forms was a tanka. So that's rather interesting. And that was in Moonbathing, which is edited by Pamela Aberbuski.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And I think she might have had to edit that poem to be a tanka because it was probably a 5-line poem back in the day. This was before I had fully grasped the short poetry forms. But it is a boost, I think, to be published early on, and because you learn so much from it, and editorial advice as well, you can learn a lot from it if you take it on board, which is hard. So that's tanka, which I don't write as much anymore, but it happens. And as far as, let's see, haiku, oh yes, charita I mentioned. That's an interesting form. It's a newer form, and it was created by Ailey, and it offers more freedom because it is basically a poem that tells a story using the short poetry sensibilities. So it's almost like a bridge between short poetry forms and mainstream poetry.
Mm-hmm.
And it can be rather beautiful. And Ailey is a great poet as well, and she has a lot of books out, and she has the Charita that she edits. So I do send work to her, and then of course Haibun is also a good transition, if you will, for people to actually understand haiku, and a bridge between mainstream and haikai, like you say. And I do write Haibun, and I love it, but I don't publish them yet. So I'm going to sit on them for a bit, and yeah, that's what I'm going to be doing. I saw the interview with Roberta Berry, and she said she did that. And I thought, yeah, if she can do it, I can do it, you know. You just have to make sure that you know what you're doing before you send it out to the world, you know. So you're still happy with it a few years down the line.
Yeah. Well,
and, yeah.
And Haibun, I like Haibun. It's my favorite. Because it allows you to do some. Maybe it's if I strung all my hundreds of Haibun up, maybe I'd have that novel I started to think about.
Yes, yes. Oh my, yes, absolutely. This is it. You know, I read an interview. I think it was Isabel Allende. You know, the magical realism novelist. And she said, if you write a good page a day, she said, soon enough you will have that novel. And I was thinking, yeah, that's a good way of thinking about it. Rather than thinking about the whole book and opening all these tabs in your mind, you just focus. And I'm actually doing that. I'm always writing a novel, but I never finish them. But that's how I'm approaching it. So every time I write, I just write on flow and see what comes out. And I'm putting haiku in there as well. So we'll see what happens with that. It might never get finished. But you're right, you should be doing that. That's your novel. The novel you never wrote.
Well, I have a funny favorite novelist for a haiku poet.
Okay.
James Baldwin.
Okay.
The Fire Next Time.
Yes, I remember now.
He, for some reason, and he has that same style. This is a crazy idea, and I have been laughed at bringing it up in relation to haiku. But he has a way of, he puts things together really well, but they're short spurts, short images, and it's like he's building a block, like a sequence or a linked verse. And
yes, exactly.
That's an odd choice for me, and some people go nuts over it. But he for some reason he changed the way I looked at writing. Oddly.
Yeah, but I like, do you see, this is exactly what I meant when I say that sometimes what inspires you or help you grow, it might not actually be haiku specific. It's when I read, for instance, Virginia Woolf, I think she has haiku sensibility. I learn about haiku through reading her books, and that happens to me a lot. So it doesn't necessarily have to be, and I think that is another beautiful aspect of haiku, that we can we can put all sorts of aspects of life into it. You know, it's all comprising, but it's true. So absolutely.
Yeah, we look at it the same way. It's, to me, it's the coolest thing in the world to, and the other thing about linked verse that I like is that other people, someone else is responding to you and you're responding to them. And so it becomes a living thing. Sequences are the same way. Sometimes I forget, I forget the journal, and the editor came back to me. I submitted 5 poems, and she said, "You need a title for this." And I said, "Why? We don't title haiku." And she said, "You do for a sequence."
Oh.
I had written a sequence. I didn't realize it, but I didn't see it that way. I thought I was. You're having the same experience I have.
I completely understand. And also, of course, when you take a form like Haiga, because I didn't mention that, I do create Haiga as well, not as much. because a lot of my photography, because I love photography, I'm not as good at it as I am a writer. So sometimes it's more, I would call it's more of a hobby, carrying around my camera. But I use it for covers because I create the covers for Hedgerow and for Blight Spirit. So I think that covers I'm satisfied with working with images. But Ron C. Moss actually invited me to showcase some of my pieces when he started editing contemporary hybrid online. So there is a gallery there of my work, and there's an artist statement as well that people can have a look at. Now I got that in. Yeah.
Good.
Yes.
That's anything Ron does, I'm for. I mean, and he doesn't do anything half baked. So the quality of your work is much better than you're giving yourself credit for. But I will tell you this. What I tell people is it's not the quality of the image, because Basho himself, his Haiga, are unremarkable from an artistic standpoint. He wasn't a great artist. He knew it.
Yeah.
But some of them are they're iconic.
Yeah.
And it's the poem in the end. This is true of Hyben. You can have the best prose in the world, but if you don't have a poem that goes with it, it won't. It's not a Hyben. Too bad. Good prose. I've read some great stories as an editor, but the poem didn't work. And it's the same thing with Haiga. So
yeah,
I think we're on the same track there, but I think we're going to put a link to your Haiga just so other people can tell you how good you are.
No, I just, thank you. That's nice. Yes, I'll take that. What I meant is I don't create as much, even though it's fun to create, because I feel sometimes exactly what you said. You have to have a poem and an image that together make something more or something else. And a lot of the time I feel I have the poem or I have the image, but does that make sense? And maybe it's opening too many tabs in my mind. I like simplicity. I'm overthinking it. That's it.
And you can like something, appreciate a part of Haikai, and not participate in it also.
Yeah.
That's also true. There's some things I don't do. I'm not good at link verse, although I love it. It's not something I'm good at, and you don't see me in a lot of it. There's a reason. For some reason, I get off track with it, but I'm very comfortable with other things. Hyben I love, and Haiga. My dad was a photographer, so but you don't have to have a great image all the time. A lot of times you can just take the simplest things, and then that's the joy. Haiku doesn't have to be a revelation either.
No,
you know that.
No. It's about imperfections. That's what makes it perfect. And I think that is exactly what it is. And I think that's what keeps pulling me back in, because I do overthink things. But with Haiku, it just is what it is. And it doesn't have to be perfect, because the moment is never perfect, because it will go and then we have the next moment. And that's basically, you have to accept that. And that is one of life's big acceptances, I guess, that nothing is really perfect and nothing ever lasts. So, that was so deep. Sorry about that.
No, that's quite all right. You just hit 5 buttons on Zen. The impermanence of things, and that's sad in one sense, but it's also a tremendous reality. It's like you're on this continuum, and by the way, it's a short continuum when you look at the universe.
Yeah. Absolutely.
We're just here spinning out little poems, and
that's right,
enjoying ourselves.
That's it. And we don't have to do anything else. We don't have to write that novel.
What other places what other journals and anthologies have you been in, and why did you choose them? Why do you like them? Where do you publish your work?
Okay, so a bit like my blog, I don't submit as much as I should. I tell myself usually at the beginning of a new year that I'm going to send out submissions every week, and I do it once, and then I stop, because I don't know why. I think deadlines just pass by. I have some documents sitting on my computer with editors' names. They've been there for years. I just don't do it. I don't get around to it. But I write all the time. So I have so many poems, okay? And they're still there, so that's fine. But what I look for, I send to Presence, UK-based journal. I send to Modern Haiku occasionally. I like Modern Haiku as well. Acorn is brilliant as well. I have sent to Acorn. So I could go on, but I choose journals that I enjoy reading, and I choose print journals because I read so much online as an editor, and I find there's a different stillness to holding a book. So I think that's why it's a certain favoritism there. I send to the print journals. What else can I think about? What else do I send?
I'm the same way, but I had to end my addiction when I retired, because between my wife and I, we had 3,000 volumes, 3,000 books. 3,000, wow. I had a complete set of Modern Haiku from day one, almost a complete set of Frog Pond. Wow. Almost a complete set of Mayfly and Acorn. I had everyone.
Sorry, Mike, I did something again. I messed up again.
Don't touch.
I don't know what did I do last time.
You're coming through fine. You're coming through fine, so don't worry about it. But what I'm saying is that all of these things, I love them too. But at some point when we retired, and we moved up north, I didn't have a library anymore in my house, and so I would encourage anybody to do this. Any haiku poet, give your books away to other haiku poets. Give them away. Send them all over the world if you have to. Have a ball, because one of the things that a lot of people in India, I've sent them all over the world, Africa, I've snuck a couple into China. Modern haiku issues have been everywhere. I've managed. Modern Haiku never had anybody subscribing to the places I've sent them. I've kicked them into places, little corners of the world that you can't even imagine. And I think, and they become the bookshelves for a haiku group someplace.
That's right. Yeah.
And that's so. I think I'm totally with you on that. Except that as I got older and when we retired, I realized also I wasn't gonna be. Oh, we lost you again. Time out. All right, we're back again. This is what happens when you try and talk to people thousands of miles apart. Funny things happen in the internet, and me being in Presskill, for all I know, it's an American problem. What can I say? But we're back. When we were on the roll there. So, I think that the books and the things that we have and I'm all for it. I won't show you my desk, but it's book after book after book after book that we've been talking about are here. I've got Stephen Addis here. I've got Japanese prints and you name it. So I learned a valuable lesson. Acorn and Mayfly, two of my favorites, are I carry them around with me all the time. My books, if you ever get a book from me, except for this one, which I've ruined and have all kinds of markings in and everything else, my wife would break my arm. She's a librarian. But
I do the same. Yeah. Can't help myself. I scribble.
The ones that I keep, I really keep on my shelf. They're like library books or library quality when I take care of them. But the ones that I read all the time, that's probably the third copy of Basho and his interpreters. But anyway, we have the same view when it comes to books and how they influence us and how we can use them. But have you published any books?
No, I have not published a haiku book yet.
Why not?
Well, I don't know. I keep asking myself the same question, and I think it's that overthinking. I don't know. I will. I keep saying I will, and then I go, I have other things to do. It's busy editing anyway, and there's no rush. But if someone from Penguin is watching, I can just throw something together. I can do it like this. I'm not that difficult.
Can I give you a hint from your prior statements? You've got all those sheets of paper with editors' names on it that you haven't submitted?
Yeah.
Your book.
Yes. Yes.
They have a book.
My book, yes. Yes, it will come. It will come. And thanks for asking, but it's not there yet. I do want to have a book bobbing around the, universe, the haiku universe. I do. So I will get there, but it's no rush. This is haiku. We're taking slowly.
And the other thing is that because it's yours and it is haiku is personal. It's little chunks of your personality. Sometimes I honestly think I just don't want to give it away.
Yes.
It's mine.
Letting go is hard.
There's parts of me you can't find out about, even if they're really funny or they're not necessarily harmful or anything or deep. It's just it's the way you feel about it. You say that was me. Yes.
But sharing is important. To be vulnerable is part of being a writer and a poet. So I will get there. I will. It's a promise to myself that I will not keep. No, I will do it. But no, at the moment, not.
As an editor, when you're editing, though, what do you look for? What's your selection process like? Do you have a ritual, or is it really, as some haiku poets think, we just flip coins?
No, yeah. That's interesting. I gave a talk it was a Zoom event by an Irish journal called Seashores, and I talked about how editing has influenced my own writing. And I talked about, when I wrote down these notes, I realized that I have developed a 3-step process that I follow intuitively when I select poems. So I have already talked about it at length, but if anyone is watching, but I start, number 1 is I just go with feeling. If something moves me, that's it. Okay, that's why I want to be moved. It can be in a light-hearted way. It can be like a punch to your face, It doesn't matter how, but I want to be moved. Of course, in a journal, we're not looking for just the greatest poems. We're looking for a mix, So that's different. But I like a poem that leaves maybe an echo in my mind, It keeps echoing there. I like that. So the second step I would do, I would look at the fine print. I would go back to that first impression and look, okay, has this been done before? Because as you know, there are some recurrent themes, and is it fresh? Is it original? I look at things like accuracy. Sometimes you have to Google stuff just to see. I'm not sure about this. I'm not an expert. There is the structure. Does it work? Does it flow? There's so many different things. That's the fine print. And if I think, yeah, it ticks these boxes, then I move on to step 3, which is going back and thinking, do I still like it? Or was it just like an instant one? Does it linger with me? Is there an echo there that lingers? And that's it. And I apply this to my own writing as well. And maybe that's why I never send things out. Yeah, but I do think it's a way, because it's so hard judging our own poems. Not that we should judge, but evaluate them, because we're in them. And it provides a way for me to step into my poems, almost like I am an outsider. And that has improved my writing, I think, significantly.
The outsider, that's the best takeaway I'm going to take out of this. That's exactly how poets feel. When you read your own poem, and you can not only see yourself, but you can see that other people are going to see themselves. And that's what they're looking for. They're not looking for the story of Mike Rehling, boring as that would be. They're looking for something they can hang their hat on. That is an excellent way to put it. You nailed it.
Okay, so there you go. What else?
Well,
did I finish with that question?
I think you did.
Do I need more coffee?
You did. No, you did. You did. That was a perfect answer. That was the perfect answer. We don't want to belabor that one.
Okay.
Well, what do you? We're at the end of this, and we've had a fun time and played technology. But what do you want people to take away from this interview about you? Who, when they're through listening to this, what do you want to tell them?
Oh, so I would say I do, and we have touched on this a lot. I believe reading is crucial, and not to read widely, not just haiku, read widely and read deeply, because there's a way of reading that just heightens everything, and learn to read like that, because it will open things up in a completely different way. And then I would say writing, if you can write every day, because we're writers, we need to hone our craft, I think it's so important. And adding to that, writing outside our comfort zones, because that's how we grow. That's how we can experiment and develop. And it is uncomfortable outside the comfort zone. And we might not even know we have a comfort zone, and we might have many. And that's important. You can experiment with techniques. You can experiment with themes, different times of day, different forms. It doesn't matter, but just allow yourself to experiment a little bit and be open-minded. And then the main thing, I think, is write as you. We have our mind, we have our senses. They are unique to us. We have our bodies, they are unique. And if we can develop, kind of fine-tune all this and express ourselves in these short poems, we have unique poems, and they will be deeper and they will be authentic to us, and they will make they will make sense to us, and they will be poems that will keep making sense to us, if that makes sense. So that was a lot of sense. But grow, be free, as free as you can, and just be you, and add your truth to your poetry. It takes a bit longer, it takes a lot of hard work, but the rewards are greater. That's it.
You nailed it. That's exactly it. And I think you've done it today. It's been a pleasure, and I have to be honest with you. We have a lot of similarities in the way we approach things, and so I've learned a lot, and you've shared a great deal of yourself, and I really appreciate you taking the time to do this. I hope people go underneath this video. We're going to put links to everything. Hedgerow is a phenomenal place, and you're an excellent editor. And I also, what I would tell people to take away from this is you have been doing this quietly, humbly, no fanfare. You're not that kind of person. I never see flares going up over your name or anything like that. But consistently, you've been turning out journals that are valuable every single time.
Thank you.
And I'm a nice guy, and I like people, but I don't throw out compliments, and I don't waste my time on junk. Your stuff is first class.
Thank you. That means a lot to me.
Yeah, well, you mean a lot to us in the haiku community, and I'm glad this gives us an opportunity so that other people who didn't know you before today can see the kind of person you are and the commitment you have to haiku. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mike. Thank you so much for having me. It's been a real pleasure talking to you. And I'm sorry about the glitches.
Don't worry about
I know they were my fault.
No, they're probably, it has to do with 2,000, 3,000 miles between us. But we're gonna leave it at that. Thank you so much.